She was about to sign her divorce papers when she saw her husband's hand resting on another woman's pregnant belly. His mistress was sitting right there in the courtroom, 6 months pregnant. And her mother-in-law? She was smiling at Emily like a hunter who had finally trapped her prey.
You're pregnant.
Emily collapsed
And you're much
before the
further
pen
along than
touched
we
the
thought.
paper. But here's where everything
You thought you
changes.
could trap my son,
When she
didn't
woke
you,
up
you
in
little
that
liar?
hospital bed, the
Stay away
doctor
from
did
him,
not
or
say
you'll
she
regret
fainted
it.
from stress. The doctor said she was pregnant too, 7 weeks along, with her cheating husband's baby. In that single moment, Emily Carter had nothing. No home, no savings, no job. Her own mother blamed her for the affair, and the Mitchell family, they were not satisfied with leaving her penniless. They wanted her baby too. What happens next will shock you. Because Emily Carter did not just survive. She burned their entire empire to the ground. This is a story of betrayal that cuts so deep, you will feel it in your bones. It is a story of revenge, so complete it will leave you breathless. And it is a story of a woman who had to lose absolutely everything to discover the strength she had all along. Stay until the end, I promise you. You will not see the twists coming. But before we begin, remember this. This story will show you that rock bottom is not the end. It is the foundation. And sometimes, the people who try to destroy you end up handing you the weapons to destroy them. The Manhattan family court building stood over Emily Carter like a memorial to all her life's failures. Its gray stone exterior seemed to swallow the pale February sun, reflecting the cold void she felt inside. She clutched her charcoal wool coat closer, but the coldness she felt was not from the winter air. This was the day she would officially end her 6 years of marriage to Ryan Mitchell, the man she once thought was her other half. Emily entered through the massive doors, the sound of her heels echoing on the marble floors, with a confidence that hid the storm inside her. She used to be a kindergarten teacher, until Ryan's business became successful and he talked her into quitting her job. He wanted her to focus on their life together. He wanted to be the one to provide for her. Now, at 32 years old, she was unemployed, had no recent work experience, and was bound by a prenuptial agreement that left her with almost nothing. The elevator trip to the 5th floor felt like it would never end. When the doors finally slid open, Emily's heart seemed to stop beating. Ryan was standing by the enormous windows, his powerful frame outlined against the city view. At 38, he looked even better than on their wedding day. His dark hair was styled perfectly, and his expensive navy suit fit his athletic build without a flaw. He looked like the definition of success, influence, and authority. But he was not by himself. A lovely younger woman was seated in the gallery just behind him, her hand resting on a noticeable baby bump. She appeared to be about 6 months into her pregnancy, and seated next to her, with an arm held protectively over her shoulders, was Margaret Mitchell, Ryan's old mother. Emily stood completely still, the warmth in her body turned to ice. The reason listed on the divorce papers was irreconcilable differences. Ryan had never told her about another woman. He had never told her about a baby. Margaret noticed Emily and gave her a smile. It was the smile of a hunter that had finally trapped its kill. She leaned toward the pregnant woman and said something quietly. They both started laughing. Emily's lawyer, a timid junior associate named Kevin, nervously arranged papers next to her. He refused to look her in the eye. She had originally hired a different lawyer, a powerhouse named Rebecca Torres, who vowed to fight for her. But then 2 weeks ago, Rebecca had mysteriously accepted a job at another firm. It was the same firm that handled legal matters for Ryan's company. Emily finally understood. Ryan had paid off her lawyer. He had left her with this young man who seemed barely old enough to need a razor. The judge, a serious woman in her 60s, named Patricia Callahan, asked them to come forward. Emily felt like she was moving through deep water, her legs feeling heavy as her thoughts raced. The judge started to recite the terms of the divorce. That is when Emily discovered the true extent of Ryan's betrayal. He had initiated the divorce 3 months prior, stating that she had abandoned him. He was demanding that she move out of their penthouse in 30 days. The prenuptial agreement she signed when she was 25, a time when she trusted him without question, awarded her practically nothing. And Ryan's lawyer had presented documents claiming Emily was emotionally unstable and neglectful. These were documents she had never seen before. These were claims she had never even heard. Emily attempted to get up, to protest, but her voice was gone. The room began to sway. She could see the smug smile on the pregnant woman's face, the coldness in Ryan's gray eyes, and the triumphant look on Margaret's face. The pen was in her hand. The divorce papers were right in front of her. She started to write the first letter of her name. It was at that moment the room began to spin. The dark ink on the white paper started to smear and dance before her eyes. She heard a faint ringing noise in her ears and felt a sudden wave of nausea. The pen slipped from her grasp. Emily, Ryan's voice seemed to come from a great distance, a note of alarm breaking through his typical composure. She wanted to answer, to tell him she was all right, but her tongue felt heavy and unresponsive. The entire room tipped to one side. She saw Ryan's face much closer now, his gray eyes wide with what looked like genuine alarm. His hands came toward her. She could feel herself losing her balance. She was falling into blackness. The very last thing Emily registered before the darkness consumed her was the sound of a woman laughing. It was Margaret's laughter. And after that, there was only silence. She awoke to the steady beeping of medical equipment and the sterile smell of disinfectant. A hospital. The thought formed slowly as the fog in her mind began to clear. She blinked her eyes against the bright fluorescent lights, struggling to piece together what had occurred. The divorce papers, the judge's chambers, the pregnant woman, the fall. Emily made an effort to sit up, but a sharp pain pulsed through her head. A nurse came in, almost instantly. A woman with a kind face, graying hair, and a gentle touch. "Take it easy now," the nurse said. "You had a nasty fall. You hit your head on the table on your way down. You have been unconscious for about 2 hours." 2 hours? Emily glanced around the hospital room. It was bare except for her and the nurse. There was no husband waiting anxiously by her side. There was no worried relative there to hold her hand. "Where's my husband?" Emily asked, even though she was not certain why she asked. He was not her husband any longer, or he would not be as soon as she signed those papers. The nurse's face showed a brief look that resembled pity. "Your family is down the hall in the waiting room. They requested not to be disturbed. They requested not to be disturbed. Of course they did." The door swung open, and a woman wearing a white coat came inside. She looked to be in her 50s, with a warm complexion and caring eyes that looked out from behind fashionable glasses. Her name tag identified her as Dr. Patricia Williams, obstetrics and gynecology. Emily's bewilderment grew. Why would they call an obstetrician and gynecologist for someone who had fainted? "Mrs. Mitchell," Dr. Williams started, then stopped herself to look at the chart. "Or is it Miss Carter now?" "Emily is fine," she replied softly. "What is wrong with me? Why am I speaking with an obstetrician?" Dr. Williams moved a chair next to the bed and took a seat. Her expression was kind but grave. "Emily, you fainted from a mix of stress, low blood pressure, and significant hormonal shifts. All of those things are perfectly normal, considering your condition." "My condition?" Emily's heart began to beat faster. "What condition, Dr. Williams? offered a warm smile. "You are pregnant, Emily. You are about 7 weeks along, according to your hormone levels. Congratulations." The words felt like a physical strike against Emily. Pregnant? That was not possible. She and Ryan had not been intimate for months. They had been living apart for 3 months. 7 weeks would place the conception right before he had left for good. It happened during that one awful, frantic night when sorrow and rage and desire had crashed together in a moment of passion that felt like both a final goodbye and a desperate hope for him to stay. The following morning, he had gathered his belongings and left without a word. He had the divorce papers delivered to her before noon. She thought she had been careful. She never imagined that one single night could upend her entire world. Emily stared at the doctor, her mouth moving, but unable to form any sounds. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach, which was still flat, but now it held a secret that would change the course of everything. "That is not possible," she finally managed to whisper. "The timeline. It does not make sense." Dr. Williams nodded her head in a gesture of understanding. "The timing might be a surprise, but I can guarantee you that the test results are correct. We ran a blood test to be certain. Your hormone levels are right where we would expect them to be for a 7-week pregnancy." Emily's mind replayed the last 2 months. She had been feeling exhausted lately, but she had assumed it was just the strain of the divorce. She had felt sick to her stomach a couple of times in the mornings, but again, stress was the logical explanation. She had been so consumed with just getting through each day, with keeping herself from falling apart, that she had completely missed the signals her own body was sending. "I thought it was just stress," Emily said, in a low voice. "That is a very frequent experience," Dr. Williams reassured her. "A lot of women do not know they are pregnant for several weeks, especially when they are going through major life events. But I need you to know that you and the baby both seem to be in good health. The fainting spell was your body's way of telling you that you need to slow down and start taking care of yourself. A baby, Ryan's baby. It was growing inside of her at this very moment. While she was lying in a hospital bed with unsigned divorce papers, another woman carrying his child was sitting in that courtroom. Emily felt like the room was closing in on her. What was she supposed to do now? The question wasn't for the doctor. It was barely even a whisper for herself. But Dr. Williams caught it. The doctor spoke softly, saying, "For right now, you do not have to make any decisions at all. Your job is to rest and recover. When you feel stronger, you can think about what comes next. But I need you to understand something, Emily. No matter what you choose, you have options. You are not going through this by yourself." Yet, Emily had never felt so completely and utterly alone. 45 minutes after she woke up, Ryan finally made his appearance in her hospital room. He came in without even knocking, his face a carefully arranged mask of worry. But Emily had known him long enough to see right through the act. He was not there out of concern for her. He was there because his lawyer likely told him it would be a good idea to seem sympathetic. "Emily, I heard you fainted. Are you all right?" His voice was monotone, as if he were reading from a script. She couldn't help but notice he was glancing at his phone while he asked. Emily looked closely at the man she had married, the man she once loved. This was the man who had systematically and deliberately chipped away at her life until she was nothing without him. And after all that, he had thrown her away. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "I am pregnant, Ryan." They came out before she could consider a plan or the timing or how to protect herself. She just had to tell him. She had to see his face when he realized the full weight of what he was abandoning. Ryan's expression shifted through a series of emotions. First, there was shock, his mouth falling open just a little. That was followed by calculation, his eyes narrowing as he weighed the consequences. Finally, a cold determination settled over him, his jaw tightening in that all too familiar way. Well, that is inconvenient timing, he stated. His voice was now perfectly calm and professional. Listen, Emily, I am willing to increase the settlement offer. We can handle this like reasonable adults. Just have the procedure and you can get on with your life. We can both have a clean break. For the first time, Emily felt like she was truly seeing the monster she had married. He never once asked if the baby was his. He never once thought that maybe, just maybe, this changed everything between them. Get out, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Emily, just be logical about this. It doesn't need to get messy. I am giving you a way out of this. Get out. Ryan let out a sigh, the kind a frustrated parent makes at a difficult child. Fine, I will have my lawyer get in touch with yours, but you should really consider my offer. It is the best solution for everyone involved. He was gone without a second glance. Emily had precisely 3 minutes of peace before the door swung open again. This time, Margaret Mitchell strode into the room, a designer purse on her arm, and a smile so cold it chilled Emily to the bone. Margaret was 65, but looked a decade younger, a testament to expensive doctors and a will of iron. Her silver hair was coiffed perfectly, a string of pearls adorned her neck, and she carried herself like a queen who had never been denied anything. She had despised Emily from the day Ryan introduced them. A simple kindergarten teacher was never going to be good enough for her son. A woman with no family wealth or social standing was unworthy of the Mitchell name. I heard the news, Margaret said, taking the chair Dr. Williams had just left. How very convenient for you to suddenly find out you are pregnant just as the divorce is about to be finalized. Did you really believe this pathetic little trap would work? Emily remained silent. There was nothing she could say to a woman like this. Margaret leaned in, her eyes shining with pure malice. My son has already provided me with a grandchild. A proper grandchild. Jessica is 6 months along with a baby boy, the true Mitchell heir. Whatever it is you are carrying is completely irrelevant. Jessica. So that was her name, the pregnant woman she had seen in the courtroom. Emily tucked that piece of information away, not quite sure why it felt important. I know you are left with nothing, Emily. Margaret's voice dropped to a low, conspiratorial whisper, as if they were old friends sharing a secret. You have no job, no savings account, no family fortune to fall back on. You gave up your entire life for my son, and now you have what you earned. Absolutely nothing. Emily felt the sting of tears in her eyes, but forced them back. She refused to give this woman the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Margaret pressed on, merciless. If you even try to claim that baby belongs to Ryan, we will bury you in legal fees until you are destitute and broken. We will paint you as an unfit mother. We will take everything from you, and that includes the baby if we must. She let the threat hang in the air, or, Margaret's tone suddenly became almost cheerful. You can sign the divorce papers, accept the settlement, and simply vanish. Start a new life somewhere far away. Pretend you never even met my son. The choice is yours. Emily finally found her voice. Get out of my room. Margaret just smiled. You should think it over, dear. You have 72 hours until the divorce is finalized. I suggest you make the smart decision. She stood up with effortless grace, smoothing the front of her skirt as if they had just been chatting about the weather. Oh, and one more thing, Emily? Margaret stopped at the door. That penthouse you have been calling home? We had the locks changed this morning. All your things have been packed in boxes and left in the lobby. Security has been told not to let you inside. She departed, pulling the door closed gently behind her. Emily just sat there in the hospital bed, too shocked to even cry. In just a few short hours, she had lost her husband, her home, and any hope she had of leaving this marriage with a shred of dignity. She was pregnant, had nowhere to live, was completely broke, and had no one to turn to. Her phone buzzed. It was a text message from the building's management company confirming exactly what Margaret had told her. Her keycard had been deactivated. Her possessions would be kept in a storage unit for 30 days, and after that, they would be thrown away. Emily finally let the tears come. 2 hours later, Dr. Williams discharged her with instructions to get plenty of rest, eat healthy, and find an obstetrician. Emily found herself standing on the sidewalk in front of the building that was no longer her home. Margaret had been telling the truth. All of her belongings were stacked near the service entrance under the lazy watch of a security guard who pointedly avoided making eye contact. Her entire life had been reduced to a dozen cardboard boxes that she had no way to move and no place to take. She tried to check their joint bank account on her phone. Access denied. Ryan had moved all the money into a private account 2 months ago. Her credit cards, all linked to his name, were no longer active. Emily's legs gave out, and she sank onto a nearby bench. The February chill cut through her coat, but she barely registered it. The cold she felt inside was so much worse. She had only one person left to call, even though the idea made her feel sick to her stomach. Emily dialed her mother's number. Her mother picked up after the third ring. "Emily, I am surprised to hear from you. Is the divorce all settled?" Emily told her everything that had happened. The collapse at the courthouse, the pregnancy, being locked out of her own home, being left with absolutely nothing. Her mother listened without saying a single word. When Emily finally finished, the silence on the other end of the line was so long that she thought they had been disconnected. "Mom, are you still there?" Her mother let out a long, weary sigh. "Emily, you really should have put more effort into keeping him happy. A husband's eye starts to wander when a wife stops taking care of herself. Perhaps if you had given him a child sooner, none of this would have happened." Emily felt something inside her shatter. "Mom, I am pregnant. Right now, I am asking for your help. You can come home if you absolutely have to, but don't you dare expect me to pay for your bad decisions. You made your bed, Emily. Now you lie in it." The line went dead. Emily sat frozen on that bench, watching strangers hurry past, living their ordinary lives, while hers fell to pieces around her. She was 32 years old, expecting a baby, without a home, and had just been blamed by her own mother for her husband's affair. She had no idea how much time had passed before her phone rang again. This time, the screen showed her brother's name. Luke Harrison. "Diana just called me. She told me what's going on. Tell me where you are. I am on my way to get you this instant. Don't you move an inch. Luke, I can't drag you into my problems. You are not asking. I am telling you. You are my little sister, and you are in trouble. That is all that matters. Now send me your location." 30 minutes later, a beat-up old Ford pickup truck screeched to a halt at the curb. Luke was out of the driver's seat before the engine was even off, crossing the pavement in 3 huge steps and wrapping Emily in a hug so tight it almost hurt. Luke Harrison was 40 years old, 6'2", and had the solid build of the firefighter that he was. He had their dad's sandy-colored hair and their mom's determined chin, and his face was a mask of pure, controlled rage. "I am going to end him," Luke muttered into her hair. "I am going to track down Ryan Mitchell, and I am going to end him." In spite of it all, Emily managed to laugh. It was a watery, broken sound, but it was a laugh. "You can't do that. You will end up in jail. It might be worth it." Luke pulled back to look at her, his angry expression melting into concern. "You are coming to stay with me and Lily. I don't want to hear any arguments. I know our apartment is tiny, and I burn dinner most nights, and Lily is in a phase where she only talks using TikTok dances. But we have a sofa with your name on it, and you are our family. Emily felt a fresh wave of tears roll down her cheeks. But these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief. Or maybe they were tears of gratitude. Or maybe it was just the profound realization that she was not nearly as alone as she had thought. She whispered a quiet thank you. He just smiled. Do not thank me yet. Wait until you have tried my cooking. Luke's apartment was a testament to the beautiful chaos of being a single dad. It was small and cluttered, with toys everywhere and a stack of dishes in the sink. A fire extinguisher was bolted to the wall, right next to the stove, which told a story of its own. But the place felt warm, and most importantly, it felt safe. Emily had never been so grateful for anything in her entire life. Lily Harrison was 8 years old, with her dad's sandy blonde hair and a personality that was about 6 times bigger than her tiny frame. The first night Emily came through the door, Lily launched into a complicated dance number that involved a whole lot of flailing arms and wild hip shaking. When she was done, she announced, "Dad told me you are having a baby and that your husband is a word I am not allowed to say. Can I be the baby's aunt? I am very responsible." I only killed my goldfish a tiny bit. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Emily genuinely smiled. I would love that. Lily's face lit up. Good. Also, you should know that Dad is a terrible cook, so you probably need to learn how to order pizza. I already have all the delivery numbers memorized. Just then, Luke emerged from the kitchen, holding a smoking pan. Dinner is ready. I made us some pasta. Lily leaned over to Emily, and Stage whispered, "It is burnt. It is always burnt." In the 2 months that followed, Emily started to slowly put the shattered pieces of her life back together. She did not have the money to hire a lawyer to go up against Ryan's expensive legal team, but her friend, Diana Santos, helped her figure out the system. Diana was her best friend from college and also happened to be one of the top divorce attorneys in the city. Her firm had a conflict of interest, so she could not officially take Emily's case, but she could give her advice. She could guide her and point her in the right direction. Document absolutely everything, Diana insisted during one of their secret meetings over coffee. Take screenshots of texts. Save every email. Get copies of all the bank statements you can before Ryan's lawyers can lock you out. The second you think something is wrong, you need to start building your case file. Most women wait until it is too late to gather the proof they need. Emily took that advice and ran with it. She began keeping incredibly detailed records of everything. She saved every letter from Ryan's lawyers. She documented every time they denied a simple request. She kept every piece of mail that was sent to Luke's apartment instead of the home she used to live in. She managed to find a part-time job at a daycare center in Brooklyn, putting her old teaching degree to use with a group of toddlers. The pay was not great, but it was a start. It was enough to help buy groceries and feel like she was contributing. Thanks to a referral from Dr. Williams, she also found a community clinic that offered prenatal care on a sliding scale fee based on her income. The staff treated her with so much kindness, even though she could barely pay the reduced cost. By the end of March, Emily had fallen into something that felt almost like a normal routine. At 12 weeks pregnant, she was just beginning to show, and for the first time, she started to believe she could actually do this. She could survive. That is when Diana called with news that would change everything. "Em, I found something." Diana's voice was tense with excitement. "Ryan's company is being investigated for tax problems, and you are never going to believe what the forensic accountant just uncovered." Emily gripped the phone, her knuckles turning white. "What is it?" "He has hidden bank accounts. Multiple offshore accounts, all in the Cayman Islands. And one of those accounts is in your name, an account you never even knew about. It has $200,000 in it." Emily's knees buckled, and she collapsed onto Luke's couch. "That is impossible. How could I have an account with my name on it and not know? That is exactly the point, Diana explained. Ryan hid it from you. He was hiding money from the government and from you. If this information comes out during the divorce, your prenup could be thrown out. Fraud is one of the very few things that can invalidate a prenuptial agreement. Emily's heart was hammering against her ribs so loudly she could hear it in her ears. What do I have to do? There is a preliminary hearing in 2 weeks. If you get on the stand and testify that you had no knowledge of this account, Ryan is going to be in a world of legal trouble. We are talking about tax fraud and hiding assets during a divorce. The judge is going to be furious. Diana paused for a moment, and Emily could hear the seriousness in her tone. But you have to understand what this means. If you testify, you are officially declaring war. Ryan and his mother are not going to just let this happen. Are you ready for that kind of fight? Emily thought about the last 3 months. She thought about the humiliation and the cruelty. She remembered being thrown out of her own home while carrying her husband's child. She thought about her own mother, blaming her for everything. She pictured herself sleeping on her brother's couch, while Ryan was living in a luxury penthouse with his pregnant mistress. I am ready. The hearing took place on a Tuesday morning in early April. Emily walked into the courthouse in the most professional outfit she owned, a simple navy dress that Diana had helped her choose. Her small baby bump was now noticeable, a gentle curve that she found herself instinctively touching whenever a wave of nervousness hit her. Ryan was already inside, surrounded by his team of lawyers. He looked genuinely shocked to see her there, and he looked even more shocked when she was called to the witness stand. Emily's testimony was clear and calm. She explained that she never had any idea the offshore accounts existed. She presented documents that proved Ryan had maintained complete control over their finances throughout their entire marriage. With quiet dignity, she answered every single question the judge asked her. Ryan's lawyer did his best to trip her up, suggesting she must have known about the money and was just playing dumb to get sympathy from the court. But Emily did not back down. I trusted my husband, she said, making eye contact with Ryan for the first time that day. He told me he was handling our finances. I believed him. That was my mistake. The judge ruled decisively in Emily's favor. The prenuptial agreement was declared void because of fraudulent concealment of assets. The court awarded Emily 40% of their total marital assets, which included the money hidden offshore. Ryan was also ordered to pay backdated spousal support and cover all of Emily's legal fees. As Emily walked out of that courthouse, she felt like she could finally take a full breath. Diana was waiting for her on the courthouse steps with a huge grin on her face. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Emily corrected her. I never could have done any of this without you. That evening, Luke made his famously burnt pasta to celebrate the victory. Lily performed a special victory dance that she had apparently been rehearsing for days. For the first time since that horrible morning, Emily felt a powerful sense of hope. That feeling lasted for exactly 6 hours. At 11 o'clock that night, a sharp knock echoed from Luke's front door. He opened it to find a man and a woman in professional clothes, both holding clipboards. Mr. Harrison, we are with Child Protective Services. We have received an anonymous report of child endangerment concerning your daughter, Lily. We need to inspect the premises and speak with the child. All the color drained from Luke's face. What? That is ridiculous. Who made this report? The report was filed anonymously, sir, but we are legally required to investigate every claim. May we please come inside? Emily could only watch in horror as the two investigators walked through Luke's small home, taking detailed notes on every little thing. They noted the cramped living space. They wrote down that there were toys on the floor. They even noted the old smoke stains on the wall near the stove. They took Lily into her bedroom for an interview, while Emily and Luke were forced to wait in the living room. "This is them," Luke whispered, his voice trembling with rage. "It has to be Ryan and his mother. They are getting back at you because you won in court today." A wave of nausea washed over Emily. She knew they would fight back, but she never dreamed they would stoop so low as to go after Luke, to go after sweet little Lily. Diana called the very next morning and confirmed their worst fears. The report to Child Protective Services had been filed by Margaret Mitchell's personal assistant. All the evidence had been faked. They had taken photos of Lily at a public playground and twisted them to make it look like she was being neglected. They even invented a fake concerned neighbor to give a false testimony. But the damage had been done. Ryan's lawyers immediately used the open investigation to appeal the judge's divorce ruling. They argued that Emily was unstable and that she associated with unfit family members, which proved her judgment was compromised. They filed a motion to establish paternity for Emily's unborn child and demanded full custody. To top it all off, they successfully froze the financial settlement until the entire appeal could be resolved. In a single night, Emily had lost everything she had just won, and now they were coming for her baby. The Child Protective Services investigation dragged on for 6 agonizing weeks. It was 6 weeks of home inspections, interviews, and social workers asking Lily leading questions designed to confuse her. In the end, Luke was completely cleared of any wrongdoing, and the report was officially dismissed as unfounded. But the investigation had served its purpose. Luke's ex-wife, a woman named Melissa who walked out on him and Lily 3 years earlier, suddenly resurfaced. She argued that the child services case was proof Luke was an unfit father and demanded they reevaluate custody. Suddenly, Luke was in a legal battle for his own child, all because he had opened his home to Emily. "Em, none of this is on you," Luke insisted one night as Emily apologized over and over. "I would help you again without a second thought. But it might be best if you found another place to stay, just until this whole mess is sorted out. It's for Lily's sake. If Melissa's lawyers discover you are still living here, they will twist it and use it against me." Emily got it. She hated every bit of it, but she understood. 5 months into her pregnancy, Emily found a room at a women's shelter in Queens called Safe Haven. It was an old church repurposed to give temporary shelter to women escaping bad situations. The living quarters were like a dormitory, with 4 beds crammed into each room, and everyone shared the bathrooms and kitchen. The experience was humbling, and it was also a serious reality check. Emily never imagined she would be the kind of person who needed a shelter. She had a college education. She had been the wife of a millionaire. Her home had been a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park. Yet here she was, trying to sleep on a stiff, narrow cot with all her worldly possessions stuffed into a single suitcase slid under the bed. The women she met at Safe Haven were from all walks of life. There was Rosa Martinez, a 45-year-old woman who had finally left her abusive husband of 20 years and was now juggling 2 jobs to save up for her own place. And there was Keisha Robinson, a 29-year-old mother with 2 kids who had fled a violent partner and was trying to piece her life back together from nothing. They were all survivors, every single one of them. And bit by bit, Emily started to realize she was a survivor too. "Girl," Rosa said one evening, after Emily gave her the short version of her story, "are you telling me you had a penthouse with a view and you just walked away?" "I did not walk away," Emily corrected her. "I was thrown out, while pregnant." Rosa gave a knowing nod. "Men are garbage. No offense to your baby's father." "Offense intended," Emily shot back. "He has it coming." Rosa let out a deep, warm laugh that made Emily crack a smile in spite of it all. "I really like you," Rosa said. "You have got a real spark. I can see it." Most days, that spark felt like a dying ember. Still, Emily was trying. Her job at the daycare was gone. Someone, and she knew exactly who, had called in an anonymous tip to her boss about her life. They mentioned the custody battle that was heating up. They talked about the Child Protective Services investigation. They pointed out she was homeless, living in a shelter. Her manager had gently pulled her aside and regretfully explained they could not risk having that kind of drama around the kids. Emily saw their point, even as the decision shattered her. It felt like a punishment for things she could not even control. But the world does not run on fairness. It runs on appearances. So now her days were spent at the shelter, helping out in the kitchen, taking on small jobs for a little cash, and desperately trying to plan her next step. With the custody appeal hearing getting closer, Diana was working for free to build her case. But the chances of winning looked slim. Ryan had resources. Ryan had a team of attorneys. Ryan had a mother who seemed dead set on utterly ruining Emily. The only things Emily had were the baby growing inside her and a fierce will not to surrender. During her checkup that week, Dr. Williams frowned with concern as she checked Emily's blood pressure. "This is much too high," the doctor warned. "Emily, all this stress is putting the baby at risk. I am ordering you to stay on bed rest." "I am living in a shelter," Emily stated plainly. "Bed rest is not really a possibility for me." Dr. Williams let out a heavy sigh. "I get it. But you need to listen to me very carefully. If this pressure keeps going up, you could go into labor prematurely. You are also at risk for preeclampsia, which is a serious threat to both your life and the baby's. You have to find some way to get your stress down, or my only choice will be to admit you to the hospital." Emily nodded, but both of them knew the doctor was asking for the impossible. She could not just decide to be less stressed when her entire world was being torn apart. That night, as she lay on her narrow cot in the shelter, Emily felt the baby kick for the very first time. It was a tiny little nudge, almost unnoticeable, like the gentle flutter of a butterfly's wings deep inside her. But it was real. Her baby was real. This tiny person was growing inside of her, relying completely on Emily for protection. Tears started streaming down her face. Rosa's voice came from the cot next to hers. "Hey, you doing okay over there?" "I felt the baby kick," Emily whispered, "and it just hit me how badly I'm failing her. I have nothing to offer her. No home, no job, not a penny to my name. Her own father is trying to take her from me before she is even born. What kind of mother brings a baby into a mess like this?" Rosa was silent for a few seconds. Then she stood up, walked over to Emily's cot, and sat on the edge, the springs groaning under her weight. "Let me tell you what my grandmother always said. When the devil keeps knocking on your door, it is because you have something he wants. That baby is worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. And crying on a shelter bed does not mean you are giving up. It just means you are human. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow we prepare for war." Emily looked at this woman she had only known for a couple of weeks, a stranger who was becoming a friend, and felt a change deep inside her. Maybe she was not as alone as she had believed. Maybe some people really were trustworthy after all. "Tomorrow," Emily agreed. "Tomorrow we go to war." 1 week after that conversation with Rosa, a package arrived for Emily at the shelter. There was no return address. Her name was printed on a simple white label. Inside, she discovered 3 things: a brand new burner phone, still in its original packaging, a universal serial bus drive, and a note written by hand. "Everything you need, use it wisely. A friend." Emily just stared at the package for a long time, her thoughts racing. Who even knew she was staying at the shelter? Who would send her evidence? And what could it possibly be evidence of? She called Diana right away. Do not plug that drive into any computer that is connected to the internet, Diana warned. It could be a setup. Ryan's lawyers might be trying to trick you. Bring it to my office. I have a guy who can check it out safely. Diana's guy was a forensic information technology expert named Marcus, who operated out of a tiny, cluttered office in Brooklyn. He plugged the drive into a secure system and spent an hour scanning it for any viruses or tracking software. It is completely clean, he finally announced, and you are not going to believe what is on this thing. The files on the Universal Serial Bus Drive were absolutely damning. There were audio files of Ryan and Margaret plotting how to destroy Emily. We have to break her spirit, Margaret's voice said with chilling clarity. Make her so exhausted she cannot even fight back. By the time that baby arrives, she should have absolutely nothing left. There was a proof that Jessica Vale, Ryan's mistress, had known about Emily the entire time. She had even helped Ryan sabotage their marriage, pushing him to work later and suggesting ways to cut Emily off from her friends. There were financial documents that proved Ryan had been stashing money in offshore accounts for years, much more than the $200,000 they had initially found. The real total was closer to $4 million. And the most shocking discovery of all was medical records that showed Jessica's pregnancy had serious complications. Ryan had been pressuring her to hide this from his family, likely because he feared it would make her seem less suitable as the mother of his heir. This is unbelievable, Diana whispered. This changes the entire game. But Em, we have to proceed with caution. Some of this was obviously obtained illegally. We cannot present it directly in court. Emily nodded. She understood. But we can use it to know where to dig. Exactly. We issue subpoenas for the right documents, we question the right people under oath, and then this information will surface through proper legal channels. Whoever sent this to you just handed us a complete roadmap. The big question was still unanswered. Who sent it? Emily had a suspicion, but it felt crazy. The only person who could have gotten all this information would have to be someone deep inside Ryan's trusted circle, someone who had decided to turn on him. For the next 2 months, Diana worked on Emily's case as if it were the single most important one of her career. And for Emily, it was. They filed one motion after another, burying Ryan's legal team in discovery, requests, and demands for documents. Slowly but surely, every piece of evidence from the drive was confirmed through official means. The hidden bank accounts, the recorded phone calls, the conspiracy to file a fake child services report. Ryan's legal team launched an aggressive counterattack. They fought to get the case records sealed from the public. They lodged official complaints about Diana's professional conduct. At every turn, they filed for delays and postponements. But the truth was steadily surfacing, and there was absolutely nothing they could do to prevent it. The custody hearing was set for August, at which point Emily would be 7 months along. This was the moment that would decide everything. She would either leave with her baby's future guaranteed, or Ryan and Margaret would succeed in taking it all away. Emily braced herself for battle. She had moved back in with Luke, whose own custody dispute with Melissa had finally been settled in his favor. The investigation by Child Protective Services had been so completely discredited that Melissa's own attorney advised her to withdraw the case. "I already told you," Luke said, when Emily tried to apologize one more time. "This is what family does. We stick together. Now quit saying you are sorry and help me figure out how to cook something that isn't burnt to a crisp." They gave up and decided to order a pizza instead. On the night before the hearing, Emily found it impossible to sleep. She sat alone in Luke's living room with one hand resting on her stomach, feeling her little girl stirring inside her. Diana had coached her on her testimony. She knew exactly what she needed to say, how she should carry herself, and the kinds of questions she should anticipate. But there was no way to be completely ready to face Ryan again, to look at the man who had worked so hard to ruin her, knowing that she was now on the verge of ruining him. Her phone vibrated. It was a text from a number she did not recognize. "You are going to win tomorrow. But this will not be the end of it. Be prepared for whatever happens next." From a friend. Emily stared at the screen for a very long time. Her secret ally was still out there, watching over her, still providing help from the shadows. But who could it be? And what did they mean by whatever happens next? She was about to find out. The custody hearing was held in the very same courthouse where Emily had collapsed months earlier. This time, she entered through the doors with her head held high, her back straight, and her baby bump clearly showing under a classy navy blue maternity dress. Diana walked right beside her, her briefcase packed with evidence. Ryan was already inside, surrounded by 3 attorneys and a public relations specialist. Margaret was seated behind him in the gallery, appearing older and somehow more fragile. Jessica was conspicuously absent. The hearing went on for 4 hours. Emily took the stand and spoke about her marriage. She described how Ryan had systematically cut her off from her friends and family. She explained how he had controlled every dollar, making her utterly dependent on him. She revealed how he had carried on a 2-year affair while lying directly to her face. She detailed how he and his mother had masterminded a campaign of harassment meant to completely break her spirit. She was poised, she was well-spoken, she was absolutely crushing. Diana then laid out the evidence. She presented financial documents that proved years of concealed assets. She played recorded phone calls between Ryan and Margaret, where they plotted how to destroy Emily. She introduced testimony from Ryan's old assistant, who confirmed the Child Protective Services report was a complete fabrication. By the time she was done, even the judge looked sickened. "Mr. Mitchell," Judge Callahan said, her voice as cold as steel, "in my 20 years on this bench, I have seldom witnessed such deliberate and calculated cruelty directed at a spouse. Your behavior has been absolutely reprehensible." The final ruling was everything Emily had wished for. She was granted full custody. Ryan was allowed supervised visits only after he completed parenting courses and a psychological evaluation. Emily was awarded 60% of their marital assets, which included all the hidden offshore accounts. Child support was to start immediately. Finally, a restraining order was granted against Margaret Mitchell, forbidding her from having any contact with Emily or coming within 500 feet of her. Emily had done it. She had won. She stepped out of that courthouse and into the bright August sun, with Luke, Diana, and Rosa by her side. Rosa had even taken the day off from work to be there for support. They all cheered. They embraced in a group hug. For one single, perfect moment, Emily let herself think that the long nightmare had finally come to an end. That feeling lasted until that evening. Emily was back at Luke's apartment, finally feeling relaxed for the first time in months, when the cramps began. She initially dismissed it as stress. Just her body finally letting go of all the tension it had been holding onto. But then the cramps grew more intense, and they started coming closer together. "Luke," Emily choked out, bending over in pain. "Something is wrong." The ambulance trip was a complete haze. Emily remembered flashing lights and panicked voices and her own hand squeezing Luke's so hard she thought his fingers might snap. She remembered the terror, so cold and total, that she was about to lose the one thing she had fought with everything she had to protect. When they arrived at the hospital, Dr. Williams was waiting for them at the emergency room doors with a serious look on her face. "Emily, you are in preterm labor. The amount of stress was more than your body could handle. We are going to do everything possible to stop the contractions, but I need you to mentally prepare yourself. If this baby is born now, at only 32 weeks, there are going to be complications. Can you stop it?" Emily pleaded. "Please, she has to be all right." Dr. Williams gently squeezed her hand. "We are going to do our best." They tried for 6 long hours. They used every possible intervention. They administered every medication. Dr. Williams and her medical team worked tirelessly through the night while Emily prayed to a God she was not even sure she believed in, making desperate promises she had no idea if she could keep. But some things are just unstoppable. At 4 in the morning, Emily's water broke. The baby was coming now, whether anyone was ready or not. The delivery was both rapid and frightening. Emily pushed whenever they instructed her to push and cried out when the pain was too much to bear. She could hear the frantic beeping of monitors and the sound of doctors shouting orders. But through it all, she kept her gaze locked on Dr. Williams, using her as an anchor, the one face in the room she knew she could trust. And then, all at once, there was a cry. It was a tiny, angry cry that was the most wonderful sound Emily had ever heard in her life. "It is a girl," Dr. Williams said, and despite all the surrounding chaos, she was smiling. "She is a little small, but she is breathing all by herself. Emily, you have a beautiful daughter." They laid the baby on Emily's chest for only 30 seconds before they had to rush her away to the neonatal intensive care unit. But during those 30 seconds, Emily took in every single detail. The impossibly tiny fingers, the little scrunched-up face, the faint wisps of dark hair, her daughter, her Hope. Hope Grace Carter. She chose that name because Hope was the only thing Emily had left, and somehow, against all odds, Hope had been enough. The following days passed in a fog of fear and total exhaustion. Hope was in the neonatal unit, hooked up to all sorts of monitors and tubes, fighting with all her might to get stronger. Emily spent every possible second she could beside her daughter's incubator, talking to her, singing to her, and promising her that everything was going to be okay. And then Ryan's lawyer showed up at the hospital with a new set of documents. "Mr. Mitchell is challenging the custody decision," the lawyer stated, her voice devoid of any emotion. "He is arguing that the premature birth is proof that Miss Carter is an unfit mother, incapable of providing a stable home for a child. He is filing for an emergency transfer of custody as soon as the baby is medically stable." Emily just stared down at the paper she was holding. Her baby girl was in an incubator fighting for her life, and Ryan was already trying to take her away from her. Something deep inside of Emily just broke. An hour later, Rosa found her in the hospital chapel, sobbing so uncontrollably she could hardly catch her breath. "They are never going to stop," Emily gasped between sobs. "It does not matter what I do. They will not stop. I really thought I had won. I thought it was finally all over, but they are never, ever going to let me go." Rosa sat down next to her and was quiet for a long moment. When she finally did speak, her voice was soft but firm. "Do you remember what I told you back at the shelter? When the devil will not leave you alone, it is because you have got something he really wants. Your baby is worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. And I know you are exhausted. I know you feel broken, but you are not finished yet. You get some rest today. Tomorrow, we are going to figure out how to put an end to this for good." Emily looked at the woman who had become a sister to her in every sense of the word. "How?" Rosa just smiled. "I believe it is time for you to finally meet your secret friend." 3 days after Hope was born, Diana got a message. It came from the same anonymous contact who had sent her the flash drive. It was a request for a meeting. The message included an address in Midtown, and it came with a promise that this meeting would change absolutely everything. Diana decided to go by herself, even though Emily begged her not to. If this turned out to be a trap, she did not want Emily anywhere near it. The meeting was set for a coffee shop, one that was nice but not overly flashy. Diana got there early and picked a table that gave her a perfect view of the entrance. She ordered a coffee that she had no plans to drink, and then she waited. The woman who entered the coffee shop 10 minutes later made Diana nearly choke on her coffee. It was Jessica Vale. She was Ryan's mistress, the mother of his other child, the very same woman who had been sitting in the courthouse gallery with a hand on her own pregnant belly, laughing at Emily's pain. "Before you start," Jessica said, as she slid into the chair right across from Diana, "I know exactly what you must think of me, and I deserve all of it. But I am begging you to please just hear me out." Diana had to force herself to stay composed. "You have got exactly 5 minutes." Jessica's story then came pouring out of her in a frantic rush. She was only 22 years old when she took the job at Ryan's company. She was young and inexperienced, completely swept away by the attention from a man with so much money and power. He was the one who went after her. He convinced her that his marriage was finished, that he and Emily were already separated, and that the divorce was just a matter of paperwork. Jessica's voice shook as she explained, "By the time I figured out he was lying, I was already pregnant. I was completely trapped. Margaret made it perfectly clear what would happen if I ever tried to leave. She would ruin me, just like she was ruining Emily. I would lose absolutely everything, and that included my own son." "So you went along with it," Diana said bluntly. "You helped them destroy an innocent woman." "Yes." Jessica looked directly into Diana's eyes. "I helped them. I did it because I was terrified. I did it because I was selfish. I told myself that Emily must have done something to deserve it. But I was so wrong. And now, I'm watching Ryan do the exact same thing to me that he did to her." "What are you talking about?" "He is never at home. He hardly even acknowledges our son. Margaret treats me like I was just hired to produce an heir, not like a daughter-in-law. Then last month, I heard Ryan and Margaret talking about how they were going to deal with me when I was no longer useful. They used the very same words I heard them use about Emily." Jessica leaned closer, a desperate look on her face. "I am not asking you to forgive me. I know I do not deserve it, but I have information. I have information that could bring this all to an end. And I am ready to testify." "What kind of information?" "Ryan has done this to someone else. Emily was not the first woman he victimized. There was another one, 15 years ago. Her name is Sarah Bennett. She also had Ryan's baby, a little girl, and Margaret paid her a lot of money to go away and never come back." Diana could feel her heart start to beat faster. "Go on." "Sarah had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. She accepted the money and relocated to Seattle. But I managed to find her contact details inside Margaret's personal files. She has been watching everything from afar all this time, just waiting for somebody to finally bring the Mitchells to justice." Jessica took a folder out of her bag and pushed it over to Diana. "And there is something else. The original seed money for Ryan's company, it did not come from Margaret's wealthy family, like everybody assumes. It was stolen from his father's business partner. The man's name was William Crawford. Margaret was the one who helped cover up the theft 15 years ago. Crawford passed away without ever finding out what they had done to him. But I am sure his family would be very interested in learning the truth." Diana opened the folder. Inside, she found financial statements, legal papers, contact information for both Sarah Bennett and the Crawford family. and handwritten notes detailing every single crime the Mitchells had committed for the last 20 years. "This is so much bigger than a custody case," Diana whispered. "This is fraud. This is conspiracy. This could even be racketeering." "I know," Jessica confirmed, "and I am prepared to help you prove every bit of it. I will do whatever it takes to bring them down." Diana stared at the woman across from her, an enemy who was now offering to be her greatest ally. The irony of the situation was not lost on her. "Why are you really doing this?" Jessica paused for a moment before answering. "Because my son deserves a much better father than Ryan could ever be. Because Emily deserved so much better than what we did to her. And honestly, because I am just so tired of living in fear." She stood up to go, but then stopped. "Please tell Emily something for me. Tell her that I am so sorry. I know it is not enough. I know it will never be enough. But I need her to know that I understand what I did, and I am doing everything I can to make things right." With that, she turned and walked out of the coffee shop, never once looking back. Diana sat there for a long time, just gazing at the folder on the table. Then she picked up her phone and dialed Emily. "Em? You are not going to believe what just happened." Emily listened as Diana explained the meeting, feeling a growing sense of disbelief. Jessica Vale, the woman she had despised for months, the one who helped tear her marriage apart, was now offering to help her take Ryan down. It had to be a setup. It just seemed too good to be true. But when Diana showed her what was inside the folder, when she saw Sarah Bennett's name and the financial documents and understood the true extent of the Mitchells' crimes, Emily knew it was real. This was the weapon they had been desperately searching for. Diana laid out the choices for her. "We can take this straight to the district attorney. That means criminal charges, federal investigations. Ryan and Margaret could end up in prison, but that also means everything goes public. Your name will be all over the news. The details of Hope's birth will be examined by everyone. It will be a long and vicious fight." Emily glanced through the window of her hospital room towards the neonatal intensive care unit, where her daughter was getting stronger with each passing day. Hope had been in the hospital for 2 weeks already. She was finally off the breathing machine. She was gaining weight. The doctors were saying she might be able to come home soon. "They tried to strip me of everything," Emily said quietly. "My home, my money, my self-respect, my own daughter. And they are not finished yet. Even right now, with Hope in this hospital fighting for her life, they are still trying to take her from me." She turned and looked directly at Diana. "If I do not put a stop to them, they will just do this to somebody else, to Jessica, to Sarah Bennett, to the next woman who comes along. They will never stop unless someone forces them to." Diana nodded slowly. "I was hoping that is what you would say." Emily felt a new sense of calm settle over her, a feeling of purpose, a firm decision. "Call Sarah Bennett, call the Crawford family, call anyone else you think we need. We are going to burn their whole world to the ground." It took 3 months to put the case together. Hope came home from the hospital after 4 weeks. She was tiny, but perfectly healthy, with her mother's deep brown eyes and her father's stubborn chin. Emily moved into a very small apartment that Diana had helped her secure, paid for with the few assets that Ryan's lawyers hadn't been able to freeze. It was not much, just 1 bedroom, a small kitchen area, and windows that faced a brick wall. But it was hers. All day, Emily took care of her new daughter. At night, once Hope was finally asleep, she worked with Diana to assemble the case that would finally destroy the Mitchells. The alliance was built one piece at a time. Diana was in charge of the legal plan, working with prosecutors and filing motions to get access to more evidence. Jessica supplied them with information from the inside, putting herself at great risk by copying documents and secretly recording conversations. Sarah Bennett finally broke her 15-year silence and agreed to testify about what they had done to her. It turned out she had a daughter too, Ryan's first child, a 13-year-old girl named Madison, who grew up knowing she had a wealthy father who wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. Rosa rallied support from the Women's Shelter Network, putting Emily in touch with other women who had escaped wealthy and abusive partners and could share what they had learned. Luke offered practical support and sometimes a much-needed laugh. His cooking skills hadn't gotten any better, but he had discovered how to order from a wider selection of good restaurants. And then there was Michael Brooks, an investigative reporter Diana had known for many years. He had been trying to expose the Mitchell family for a decade, but was always blocked by their money and legal threats. Now, at long last, he had the proof he needed. Their strategy was to attack from all sides at once. Financial ruin would come from forensic accountants who tracked down every single hidden dollar. Their strategy was a three-front war. First, public pressure from Michael's investigative report, timed to publish the second the court case started. Second, a legal onslaught, with a barrage of civil and criminal complaints filed one after another. And third, the powerful testimony of Emily, Jessica, and Sarah, which would paint a clear picture of abuse that stretched back 20 years. On a cool November night, the team met up at Luke's place for one last strategy meeting before unleashing their plan. "Okay, let me make sure I have got this right," Rosa said, outlining the plan between bites of pizza. "We have the wife, the ex-girlfriend, and the other ex-wife all teaming up to bring down the one guy who wronged every single one of them. This is basically a Netflix series, just with much better food." From the kitchen, Luke chuckled as he struggled with the coffee maker. "I wanted to brew something special, but Lily claims my coffee tastes like liquid despair." He added, "She is not wrong." Emily scanned the faces in the room, taking in the strange little family she had brought together. Just 1 year before, she had been completely on her own. Frightened, positive that she was about to lose everything that mattered, but now she was in a room full of people ready to go to war for her. And she was ready to do the same for them. "No matter what happens when we walk into that courtroom," Emily began, "I need you all to understand how much this means to me. I never could have made it this far by myself. That is the whole idea," Diana responded. "None of us are supposed to face these things alone. That is the secret to how men like Ryan always get away with it. They make their victims feel isolated until there is no one left in their corner." "Well," Jessica then added softly, "this time, there is." Michael Brooks' story went live on a Tuesday morning. Mitchell Development, an empire of lies. Inside the real estate dynasty built on fraud, secret children, and ruined women. The article laid out every detail. It exposed Ryan's history of affairs and abandoned families. It revealed Margaret's role as the family enforcer, the one who cleaned up every scandal and destroyed anyone who threatened their public image. It uncovered the embezzlement that had provided the company's initial funding, and it detailed the systematic harassment of women who dared to speak out. By lunchtime, the hashtag Mitchell Exposed was trending across the country. By that evening, other women had begun to share their own stories. By the next morning, Mitchell Development's stock had fallen by 30%, and the company's board of directors had scheduled an emergency meeting. Ryan tried to fight it. He appeared on television and called the article a malicious attack organized by his bitter ex-wife. He threatened to sue Michael, the news publication, and Emily herself. But the proof against him was overwhelming, and it was absolutely everywhere. Margaret went on television herself, defending her son with a chilling calm. "Emily Carter," she said, "was a disturbed woman who simply could not handle a failed marriage. She claimed Emily had manipulated other vulnerable women into telling lies about her family. Every single word, she insisted, was a complete fabrication." That very same evening, the network called Diana. They wanted a response from Emily. Live, on the air, tonight. Emily looked over at Hope, who was sleeping soundly in her crib. Her daughter was now 5 months old, healthy, happy. She was completely unaware that her mother was about to fight a battle on national television. "I am ready," Emily said. 2 hours later, she was on camera, wearing a plain blue dress and holding a folder full of documents. The interviewer, a seasoned journalist named Catherine Wells, asked for her reaction to Margaret's accusations. Emily never flinched. "I was teaching kindergarten when I first met Ryan Mitchell. I left my career behind because he made a promise to always take care of me. I believed him. And when he was finished with me, he and his mother worked together to strip me of everything: my home, my savings, my dignity, my daughter." She then opened her folder and started placing documents one by one onto the table. "Here are the financial records. They prove Ryan hid millions of dollars from the government and from me while we were married. Here are the full transcripts from recorded phone calls between Ryan and Margaret, where they plot how to destroy me. Here are the documents that prove they invented a child abuse claim against my own brother, trying to take his daughter from him." Catherine Wells looked completely stunned. "These are very serious allegations. They are not allegations. They are facts. They are documented. And they have been verified. And I am not the only one. There are others. They are women Ryan used and then threw away over a 20-year period. We are not staying silent any longer." The interviewer then asked the one question that everyone watching needed an answer to. "If you could say one thing to Margaret Mitchell right now, what would you say?" Emily stared straight into the camera lens. "I would tell her what I so desperately wish someone had told me years ago. Money does not make you untouchable. Power does not make you right. And there will always be women like me, women who refuse to just fade away in silence. We remember, we document, we fight, and eventually we win." Within hours, the clip of her interview went viral. By the next morning, it had over 50 million views. The legal fallout came fast. The district attorney's office launched a full criminal investigation. Ryan and Margaret were officially charged with financial fraud, tax evasion, tampering with a witness, and conspiracy. Their bail was set at $5 million apiece. Emily, Sarah Bennett, and Jessica came together to file a civil lawsuit for damages. The Crawford family also filed their own lawsuit, seeking justice for the embezzlement that had stolen their father's life savings. It only took 6 months for Mitchell Development to declare bankruptcy. The criminal trial was held the following year. For 2 straight days, Emily was on the stand, calmly laying out every detail of what she had endured. Sarah Bennett testified about the hush money and the non-disclosure agreement she had been forced to sign. Jessica testified about the things she had seen from inside Ryan's inner circle. The defense lawyers for Ryan threw everything they had at them. They tried to tear down the women's credibility. They claimed the evidence was all made up. They argued that their clients were the real victims of a carefully planned smear campaign. The jury was not buying a word of it. In the end, Ryan Mitchell was found guilty on 12 counts and sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Margaret Mitchell was convicted on 9 counts and received a sentence of 6 years. All of their assets were seized. The very same penthouse Emily once considered her home was sold off at auction. The offshore accounts were drained to cover fines and pay restitution to the victims. By the time all the legal proceedings were over, the once mighty Mitchell empire was completely gone. Emily went to the sentencing hearing. She was not there to celebrate. She was just there to witness it, to be a living reminder to Ryan and Margaret that she had survived and that she had won. Ryan saw her as they led him from the courtroom in handcuffs. For just a second, she saw something flicker in his eyes. It was not remorse. It was not regret. It was fear. He finally understood the gravity of his actions and the true price he would have to pay. Emily stepped out of that courthouse into the bright spring sunshine and never once looked back. 2 years after the trial ended, Emily was standing on the back porch of her townhouse, watching Hope play in the little backyard. Her townhouse was modest, but it was comfortable. 3 bedrooms, a small garden, and it was in a neighborhood filled with other families. She had used the money from her civil settlement to buy it, and she chose something practical, not flashy. She had no need for a penthouse anymore. She did not want anything that would remind her of the life she had fought so hard to escape. Hope was 2.5 years old now, a little ball of energy who had her mother's brown eyes and a contagious laugh that could light up even the darkest room. She was busy chasing butterflies in the yard, her little legs working hard as she chased after creatures that always stayed just beyond her grasp. Emily smiled, thinking about what it felt like to chase after impossible dreams, to fight battles that seemed impossible to win, to hold on to hope even when it felt foolish. She knew she had chosen the perfect name for her daughter. The back door slid open, and Diana came out holding 2 glasses of lemonade. Over the last year, their Sunday planning meetings had become a ritual, but these days, they were focused on expansion, not just survival. "We got 3 new clients this week," Diana reported, as she sat down in the chair next to Emily. "They were all referred to us from that article, and the foundation approved our application for the grant." Emily gratefully accepted the glass of lemonade. "How much?" "Enough to bring on 2 more counselors and to grow our legal aid program. We are going to help so many more women, Em." The idea for Hope's House had come from Emily. It was a nonprofit that gave legal assistance, job training, and a temporary place to stay for women getting out of abusive marriages. It had started out small, with just Emily, Diana, and Rosa operating out of a tiny, cramped office. But the word got out. Donations started pouring in. Women from all over the country started to find them. In just 2 years, they had helped more than 500 women start their lives over. Rosa was now the lead counselor, using the wisdom she gained from her own ordeal to help others on the same path. Keisha was in charge of the job training program, helping women learn the skills that would allow them to be financially independent. Even Jessica had become involved and had funded a scholarship program specifically for children who had survived domestic violence. "Sarah Bennett called last week," Diana added. "She and Madison are doing great. Madison was accepted into a performing arts high school. She got a full scholarship." Emily nodded, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. Sarah's daughter never knew who her biological father was, and Sarah was determined to keep it that way. Madison was doing wonderfully without the Mitchell name or their money. She thought to herself that some inheritances are best left behind. What about Jessica? She is doing well. She and her son got into their new apartment last month. She is even starting a support group for women who were the other woman without ever knowing the whole story. Emily had to smile at the irony of it all. 2 years ago, she had despised Jessica Vale with every part of her soul. Now here they were, co-parenting children who were half-siblings and creating something positive together. Life certainly had a strange way of unfolding. Just then, Hope came running up to her, holding something tightly in her little hand. "Mama, a flower!" Emily accepted the dandelion her daughter was offering, a scraggly yellow weed that looked like a flower to her. To Emily, it was perfect. "Thank you, sweetie. It is beautiful." Hope's face lit up, and she ran off to search for more treasures. Diana watched her for a moment, smiling. She has no clue what you had to go through to give her this kind of life. Emily shook her head. "One day, I will tell her the whole story." when she is old enough to understand it. But for now, she does not need to carry any of that. All she needs to know is that she is loved. They sat there in a comfortable silence for a while, watching as Hope explored the little garden. "Do you ever think about him?" Diana asked in a soft voice. "Ryan?" Emily paused to think about the question. She had not seen Ryan since the trial. He was in a federal prison located in Pennsylvania, serving out his sentence. Margaret was in a women's prison in Connecticut. Neither of them had ever tried to make contact. Sometimes, Emily finally admitted. Not with anger anymore, though. It is mostly just sadness. He had it all. Money, power, success. And he lost everything. Because he just could not stop taking what was not his. He is going to be in prison until Hope is 10 years old. He is going to miss her whole childhood. And for what reason? Diana nodded. I think about that too. All that damage he caused, all those lives he destroyed, and in the end, he was the one who lost it all. Emily thought about the person she had been 3 years ago, the woman who fainted in that courthouse, absolutely certain her life was over, the woman who woke up in a hospital room to news that would change the course of her entire life, who spent months fighting just for her survival, just to keep her child, just to prove that she had a right to exist. That woman felt like a completely different person now, or maybe not. Maybe that woman was still inside her, underneath it all. She was the foundation that Emily's new life had been built upon. You know what I truly learned from all this? Emily said, as she watched Hope pick another dandelion. They can take your home, your money, your job. They can try to steal your dignity and your hope. But what they cannot take away is who you are at your core. And the moment you stop being terrified of losing it all, that is the moment you understand that you had the power inside you the whole time. Diana gave her hand a squeeze. Listen to you, sounding like a motivational poster. Emily laughed. Oh, be quiet. I am having a profound moment. You are being ridiculous, and I love it. The warm sun of the late afternoon felt good on Emily's face. In the garden, Hope had found a ladybug and was completely fascinated. Watching it crawl across the back of her hand, Diana was already looking at her phone, already moving on to the next thing on her never-ending to-do list. This was her life now. Simple, full, meaningful. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was good. Emily thought of all the women who would be walking through the doors of Hope's house in the coming year. Women who were in the exact same position she had once been, frightened, all alone, absolutely certain that their situations were completely hopeless. She planned to tell them what Rosa had told her, all those months ago at the shelter. When the devil keeps coming after you, it is because you have something that he wants. Your life is absolutely worth fighting for. Your children are worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. And then she would tell them one more thing. Something she really wished someone had told her when her nightmare first began. You are not alone, not any longer. Hope came running back to her, out of breath, her cheeks red with excitement. Mama, Lily is here, and Uncle Luke is burning something in the kitchen again. Emily looked up just in time to see Luke's pickup truck pulling into her driveway. Lily, who is now 10 years old, leaped out of the truck before it had even come to a complete stop and bolted toward the backyard. I brought dessert, Luke yelled, holding up a cake that was leaning slightly to one side. I made it myself. It only caught on fire 2 times. The 2 girls ran into each other's arms with a flurry of hugs and laughter, then immediately dashed off to start whatever new adventure they had planned. Luke walked up to the porch, took a glass of lemonade from Diana, and settled into a comfortable conversation. Emily watched her family, this beautiful, mismatched group of people, brought together by crisis and held together by choice. Her brother, her best friend, her daughter. the community of survivors that had given her life a new meaning. 3 years ago, she had woken up in a sterile hospital room to news that had shattered her world. She had been pregnant, without a home, and utterly alone. She truly believed her life was finished. She could not have been more wrong. Her life was just getting started. The sun was dipping below the horizon behind the townhouse, brushing the sky with strokes of orange and pink. Hope was laughing at something Lily had just said. Luke was in the middle of describing his latest kitchen catastrophe, while Diana tried her best not to choke on her lemonade. Emily Carter took a slow, deep breath of the cool evening air and smiled. This is what victory actually felt like. It was not about getting even. It was not about money. It was not about crushing your enemies. It was just this: a sense of peace, a sense of purpose, and the people who loved her. Hope. In the end, that was the one thing they could never take from her. Emily Carter's organization, which she named Hope's House, has now helped over 500 women rebuild their lives after leaving abusive marriages. Ryan Mitchell is currently serving an 8-year sentence in federal prison for fraud and tax evasion. He has never once met his daughter. Margaret Mitchell's assets were seized by the government. She now lives in a small, one-bedroom apartment in New Jersey after being released early for good behavior. Jessica Vale and her son live just 3 blocks away from Emily. The two women are now friends, co-parenting their children and meeting up for coffee every Thursday. Sarah Bennett and her daughter, Madison, have fully reconnected. Madison now knows the truth about who her biological father is and wants nothing to do with him. Hope Mitchell Carter is a happy and healthy little girl who is surrounded by love, and her mother is determined to keep it that way. And that is Emily's story. She was a woman who walked into a courthouse prepared to sign away her life, and walked out with nothing but the baby growing inside her and enemies attacking her from all sides. But she refused to give up. She fought back. She found her tribe, and in the end, she won. If Emily's story of resilience touched your heart today, please do one thing for me. Hit that like button. Do it not for me, but for every woman out there who is fighting a silent battle no one else can see. Let her know that she is not alone. Model. Let me know in the comments what part of this story really got to you. Was it the moment her own mother turned against her? Was it when they tried to take her newborn baby right from the hospital? Or was it that final revelation from Jessica? I truly read all of your comments, and I love hearing what you think. Please share this story with someone in your life who might need to hear it. You never know who is fighting a private battle. And if you are new here, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We share stories just like this one each and every week. These are stories about women who would not be defeated. They are stories that show us that there is always a reason to have hope. I appreciate you listening all the way to the end. You are why I make these. I will catch you in the next story. This content was carefully researched, crafted, and manually edited by our team to bring you meaningful lessons and real value. Every word was chosen to inspire, to empower, and to remind you that your story is not over yet.